Peace, family. It's your brother Marc Lamont Hill. We are approaching New Year's here on the East Coast of the United States, and we're talking about how we fight for Palestine in 2024. Shout out to everybody that joined me here online. Shout out to everybody all around the world that's part of this YouTube, and shout out to everybody that's showing love to the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. I'm so grateful. Right now in the comments, right where you calling from, it's almost midnight in some parts of the world. It's past midnight in other parts of the world. I've been getting my love, my shouts out from Palestine all around the last 3 or 4 hours. People all over Palestine have been writing me. If you're coming from other parts of the U.S., write the city, write the state. Let me know where you're coming from. Hit that like button also to let me know you in the building. It also lets YouTube know that you rock with the channel and what we're doing in this conversation. Yo, I appreciate y'all so much. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to talk to you all as we approach midnight. And I thought about it and I said, as we approach midnight and we approach the end of 2023, we have to really think deeply and richly about how we enter 2024 on this question of Palestine. You know, some of us have been activists and organizers for a very long time, and we've done a lot of work to try to create public conversation, draw public attention to what's happening in Palestine. But since October 7th, we've seen things grow and expand exponentially. People who didn't know what Gaza was are now talking about stopping the violence in Gaza. People who didn't understand Israel or Palestine are now calling for a free Palestine. Now, of course, I'm not romantic or naive about this. There's a whole bunch of folk uh, who are on the other side of the equation, who have doubled down on Zionism, who have backed the US's role and Israel's role in the occupation and in the formation of an apartheid state. I mean, we got all kinds of people on the political spectrum, but yet still in this moment, I'm deeply hopeful and I'm deeply optimistic, almost not optimistic, but I'll say I'm hopeful about what's possible. Uh, but to get on the other side of what's possible, we have to organize, we have to struggle, and we have to work with a concerted effort. And so what I wanted to do uh, in this live is talk about not just do we fight for Palestine, but how do we fight for Palestine? I'm going to make sure that I leave room for questions and comments because this is the last live of 2023 for Marc Lamont Hill. This is the last live that you'll see on the Marc Lamont Hill YouTube channel. Of course, later tonight, if you're on YouTube and you just want to keep rocking with us, watch the old videos or watch the video that I produced and put out yesterday along with my brilliant, wonderful team called 5 Myths on Israel and Palestine. 5 Myths on Israel and Palestine. We break that thing down so that people can't continue to hit you with BS. They can't tell you lies. They can't give you empty talking points. They can't give you false statistics and false platitudes about what's going on in the region. No, you're going to be armed with information. So you could do all of that. But tonight's the last conversation. And so the question is, how do we fight for Palestine in 2024? Well, the first thing I'd say is we can no longer start from zero. In 2014, we started from zero. 08, 09, we started from zero. When I say started from zero, what I mean is the public attention. The public attention resets. Oh my God, Operation Cast Lead. Oh my God, Operation Protective Edge. You know, each time there's a major bombing in Gaza, a bombardment of Gaza, there's always a siege, but a full bombardment of Gaza, what the Israeli government refers to as mowing the lawn, where every few years they come and they engage in these kind of military actions designed to trim down the population and create new borders and boundaries, both physical and imaginary, around the Palestinian people. When that happens, we all get shocked all over again. When the violence stops on the news, when the bombings stop on TV, when the mass casualties stop piling up on social media, that does not mean that Palestine is at peace. It does not mean that Gaza is at rest. It does not mean that the West Bank is calm. This is an issue of ordinary, daily, quotidian, ritual violence, structural violence, institutional violence. And so we can never treat this like a war that ended and then up, they sparked a new war. No, this is an ongoing daily war. Rashid Khalidi, one of the great historians of Palestine, has a book out called The 100 Years War on Palestine. And that's the point. This isn't about a 70 plus day war as we see right now. This isn't an a 6-day war like we saw in 1967. This isn't a 51-day war like we saw with Protective Edge in 2014. This is a 100 years war. And so any analysis that we have going into 2024, we have to pick it up as a daily structural form of violence and repression, as opposed to an act of violence or an instance of violence. Same thing happened on October 7th when Hamas attacks those Israeli people, those Israeli civilians, those Israeli citizens, those innocent or unarmed folk, those people at the concert, whatever, however you want to describe them. These people who died were not the first people to die. These people who attacked were not the first people to attack. Whatever you think of October 7th, there was an October 6th, and there was an October 1st, and there was a September 1st, and there was an October of 1940, and an October of 1920, and an October of 1882, and so forth. My point is, however you think and talk about this issue, you got to do so from that perspective. What's up, y'all? My apologies. Somebody said COINTELPRO. Infinite Content, shout out to you, family. Infinite Content said, damn it, that COINTELPRO FBI agent in the chat snipe Mark Screen. Might be, you know what I'm saying? It might be COINTELPRO, might be the Mukhabarat. I don't know. But yeah, they definitely shut me down for a second. But we rocking and rolling, family. We back. Here's the point. It's BB in the chat bushes. I don't know. I hope not. Man, y'all got all the conspiracy theorists is up in the building. Yo, I feel you. I feel you. Don't worry. I ain't going nowhere, though. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. The deep state didn't get me. We good. We rocking and rolling, everybody. Stay with me, though, because these are some important points, right? The first thing is we can't think about this as a moment of violence that's ended, but we have to frame this as an act of continual violence. October 7th was a moment of violence. You know, the bombings, the hospital bombings, El Ahli, at Shifa, these are moments of violence, but they're not independent. They're part of a long stretch of violence that has happened over 100 years. And so if we frame it that way, if we talk about the violence of the occupation, right now, Israel continues to occupy the West Bank and Gaza. They've done so since June of 1967. We're talking about 50, going on 57 years. In June, it'll be 57 years of occupation. That is the longest occupation, military occupation in modern history. That's how our language should be. So I'm not just telling you sort of how to imagine this. I'm telling you how to articulate it. I'm saying that we have to frame this in the context of ongoing repression, right? So when we go into 2024, we say, yep, it's 2024. We are now in year 57 of Israel's illegal occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. When you talk about it like that, when you frame it like that, it's a crisis that needs to be addressed right now, as opposed to, oh, we're on day 62 of a war. Wars go on for years. But the point is, there has been a war for years. Also, on to the next point, when we talk about how to fight for Palestine in 2024, let's avoid the language of equivalency. Sometimes, for lack of a better word, we'll say the conflict. I do it sometimes too. It's just, sometimes it's easier to say that. But when we say things like the war on Hamas or the war on Gaza, when we say the conflict, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, we're continuing to articulate and reinforce the idea that these are two competing sides who are relatively equal in power. Israel and Palestine are not a conflict. One is an occupying power. One is a military power. One is an apartheid state. It's not a conflict. It's an oppression. It's an apartheid. It's a genocide. It's an ethnic cleansing. It's a depopulation. It's not a conflict. But in television, when we use the words of equivalence, both moral equivalence, military equivalence, etc., then what we end up doing is setting up a both sides argument. Well, you know, it's a war and both sides do this, both sides do that. This is not a war. Palestinians are not at war. Gaza is not at war. This is Israel responding to Hamas's attack with disproportionate and ultimately asymmetrical and illegal force. That has to be how we talk about this. This is the language that we must use. Also, as we move into 2024, we have to, oh, I like that. الوضع بفلسطين. أحسن هيك. As we move into 2024, and we talk and think about this, let's stop echoing Zionist talking points. Let's stop echoing Israeli state talking points. Let's stop echoing media talking points. Rather than echoing talking points, let's unpack the language that is being used. Let's unpack the terms that are being used. For example, you will hear people say, well, of course, Israel has a right to defend itself. Yes, that's true. Everybody has a right to self-defense. The problem is everything that they're calling self-defense isn't self-defense. And so it becomes an empty talking point. I'm going to give you an example. If you are an occupying power, if you are a military occupying power, you do not have the right to self-defense in the areas that you occupy. That is simply untrue. المنصة كمان مرة. الحمد لله، شكرا جزيلا، شكرا جزيلا للهدية، للوهب، لكل شيء، لكل شيء. Um, if, for example, I run into your house and I rob your house and you pull out a gun and shoot me in your house, I can't pull out a gun and shoot back and say, well, self-defense, he was shooting at me. Why? Because I'm illegally in your house. According to international law, occupying nations, not just Israel, any nation that is that is militarily occupying another does not have the right to self-defense in that space. That's not what that violence is. So, again, let's unpack this stuff. Let's not just take the talking point and keep going. Oh, well, Al Ahli Hospital, excuse me, Al Shifa Hospital was a Hamas headquarters, but they still shouldn't bomb it. No, let's not assume from the beginning that it is a military headquarters for Hamas. Why? Because it wasn't. The evidence proved that it wasn't. But when Biden says he believes it, just like Biden said he saw pictures he never saw, when the Israeli government says it, when so-called generals say it, we just say, oh, well, it must be true. When the media says it, oh, it must be true. No, we're allowed to ask tough questions. We're allowed to unpack and question the answers, not just from Hamas, not just from Israel, not just from the US, not just from Syria or Jordan, not just from Fatah or Hamas or Jabha or whoever, but everybody, all the entities, all the sides. We must question them. We also must, again, not establish equivalency. There is a very consistent pattern of Israel overstating the amount of people who were killed in wars, of Israel claiming certain types of violence to draw international outrage and wrath against brown people. You have to think about that. We have to not fetishize nonviolence. We should not hold Palestinians to an unreasonable standard. Nobody asked Israel to be nonviolent on October 8th. No one said, well, you know, Israel, where's the Israeli Martin Luther King on October 8th? Why aren't they turning the other cheek? No, people assumed that Israel would engage in an violent action in response to Hamas's violent action on October 7th. But when it comes to Palestinians, somehow they say, oh, well, yeah, it's a military occupation and it's illegal and it's a violent one, but y'all should be nonviolent. Oh, well, yeah, the Great March of Return, where you were marching toward the undeclared borders of Israel, and you were unarmed and you were nonviolent. And yeah, they picked you off like birds. The Israeli military picked off Palestinians like birds in the Great March of Return, and yet still, yeah, but y'all got to stay nonviolent. And then when Palestinians go around engaging in the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, the BDS campaign, which is a nonviolent campaign, they say, "Oh, yeah, it's nonviolent, but it's wrong. It's anti-Semitic. It's collective punishment." Suddenly, they know what collective punishment is, and say, "Oh, we can't do that. That's wrong." To criminalize them, and anybody in the United States that supports it, criminalize them too, or sue them, or not. Don't let them get a job here or a job there. This is the context. So, on the one hand, we say nonviolence is not something that Palestinians engage in. On the other hand, when they do, we defeat that too. So ultimately, what are we asking? As a society, we're saying, one, Palestinians don't have a right to armed resistance. Says who? Says who? Says who? Palestinians don't have a right to defend themselves? And when they do, it's deemed terrorism. I mean, I personally do not agree with the actions of Hamas on October 7th. I do not. My disagreement with Hamas's actions does not mean, though, that I don't understand how we got to this place. They've been in an open air prison. They have been what many Israeli experts call a concentration camp since 2007. They've been denied water, electricity. They've been subjected to almost daily bombings. Uh, uh, they've had their movement controlled. They've lived under effective military occupation their entire lives. And then, when, as Malcolm X used to say, when the powder keg is in the room, and then ultimately something explodes, y'all act surprised. Y'all get brand new. Stop pretending that nonviolence is the only way. In the same way that you would not allow Israel to be expected to engage in nonviolent action after a violent assault, why do you expect Palestinians to engage in nonviolent action after daily violence by the occupation, daily violence by the apartheid state? Now, again, I believe in nonviolence. I think nonviolence is an essential tactic. It's a necessary strategy. Nonviolence should always be our first way to go. Nonviolence should always be our tactic. It should always be our strategy. It should always be our hope. It should always be our expectation. I'm simply saying that people also have a right to defend themselves, and we can't hold people to an impossible standard. In 2024, we have to put our vote in the hands of people who respect and reflect these politics. How many times have y'all voted for a Democrat in your district? Just getting my charger, y'all, so I don't lose y'all again. I can't blame the deep state if I run out of power. How many times have y'all voted for a Democrat who's progressive on every issue but Palestine? How many times, when you saw Rashida Tlaib censured by Congress, Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian woman in Congress, one of two Muslims in Congress. And again, I want to thank my family here, who was generous enough to donate 10 memberships to the channel. After doing 10 memberships to the channel before, I'm so grateful. Shout out to you. I appreciate you. Um, I can't even tell you how grateful I am. Infinite Content, thank you again for the love and for the for the shouts out all the time, yo. I'm so grateful. Family, we can't continue to vote for people who can't even stand with Rashida Tlaib. We can't continue to vote for people who couldn't just say, no, I'm not going to censure this woman. We can't continue to vote for people who refuse to reject a House resolution that effectively says Palestinians don't have a right to defend themselves, that Palestinians don't have a right to call for their own self-determination, that demonize any critique of the state of Israel as anti-Semitism. We can't continue to vote for people who do that, but most of y'all do it. Most of us do it. We keep voting for people who are progressive except for Palestine. None of y'all would say, oh, well, they're progressive except for abortion. Oh, they're progressive except for civil rights. Oh, they're progressive except, right? We would say, no, these are our issues. These are our standards. Now, I'm not saying that we should be single issue voters, and there can be complexity here. Again, I'm not saying to be a single issue voter or be irrational or be a zealot. I'm not saying that. But we got to start making Palestine another issue that we care about. It ain't the only one. Let me be very clear. I'll give you another example. As a Black person in the United States, reparations is one of those issues. We got to stop voting for people who say, oh, yeah, I'm super progressive except for reparations. I'm super progressive, but I don't know if Black folks should have reparations. I'll consider support for a bill that would consider a committee, that would consider a study, that would consider if we should consider reparations. No, F that. No, either we do it or we don't do it. In the same way I'm saying that about reparations, I'm saying we have to have that across multiple issues. Stop letting Democrats let you off the hook so that you don't have to do the work. You say, I did my best. Democrats just didn't vote, just voted. No, don't let them let you off the hook. But also, you don't let them off the hook. Don't let the Democrats off the hook. Because when it comes to the question of Palestine, Democrats have been cowards. When it comes to reparations, Democrats, cowards. When it comes to fighting multinational corporations, Democrats, cowards. When it comes to fighting police terrorism, Democrats, cowards. So let's be very clear here. In 2024, if y'all are fighting for Palestine, we need to be doing it by holding Democrats accountable too. Last time I checked, the person that's continuing to authorize weapons and money and public support and normalization of Israel's genocide in Gaza, it's Joe Biden. It's Kamala Harris. So let's not forget that. Let's not forget that. Hit the like button if you agree with me that we got to hold Democrats accountable, that we can't just walk around sanctifying and sanctioning and normalizing Democratic action, even when they're cowardly on the question of Palestine, cowardly on the question of Israel, cowardly when it comes to lobbying groups. We got to speak up. How do we fight for Palestine in 2024? Loudly. I am tired of the whisper campaigns. I'm tired of the secret DMs and text messages from people who are supporting Palestinian rights. I'm tired of the colleagues that hit you up when you get fired from a job or when you get censured from your congressional position who say, oh, that was wrong. Like, why are we whispering? Don't whisper that it was wrong. Speak up and speak out, or don't say nothing. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it, y'all. The reason why people get isolated, the reason why people like Claudine Gay get targeted and attacked, the reason why people like Liz McGill at Penn, I'm talking about the respective presidents of the institutions, the reason they can get targeted is why? Because so many people are forcing them to stand alone. How many people in that university agreed? Lots of them. How many of them said their agreement out loud? Almost none of them. It's going to be time to run for president soon. How many people are going to be speaking up and speaking out? How many people on the Republican side are going to say, you know what, Israel has gone too far? Not one. But we don't expect political courage from the Republicans. But when Democrats do the same thing, are we going to sanction and sanctify it? Are we going to normalize and naturalize it? What are we going to do? Amir writes in, and thank you for the love and the support, Amir, or Ahmad, excuse me. What who do we support in the U.S. political system when both sides support Zionism and occupation? It seems like a losing battle. I think we have to be pragmatic on some level and ask who, and think about this from a posture of harm reduction. Who will do the least harm? But we also can't leave them that way. We can't say, oh well, Biden is a little bit better than Trump on Israel, so vote for Biden. No, we have to hold them accountable and force them to change their political posture. We also have to primary these people. I would have loved a primary challenge to Joe Biden. That's what I want. Personally, I wanted Cornel West to run as a Democrat so that he could have tried to unseat Joe Biden in the primary race. I would have voted for Cornel to get rid of Biden. Well, I'm not a Democrat, so I can't actually vote in the Democratic primary, but I would have supported it. I would have told other people to do it. I would have rallied support for it. That's a game changer. I still want to see that on a lot of these elections. Y'all too kind. How old were you in 1991? Mark, you look 29. I have children in their 20s. So no, I ain't 29. I appreciate it though. I'll take it. I'll take it. So many comments here. I'm gonna take as many as I can because there's so much cool stuff coming in. Keep hitting the like button, keep hitting the subscribe button. Also, this is your last opportunity this year to join that Marc Lamont Hill channel. If you want to, hit that join button while you're here. Send a super chat, send a super sticker, whatever you want. We love the appreciation, we love the love, and it helps us build and expand this platform. So I really, 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 really appreciate it. Claire, MZ Mbaba Brown, from the river to the sea, she said Palestine will be free. Lots of people, again, don't accept those talking points. Don't let them think that when you call river to the sea Palestine will be free, that you call it for genocide, when you're really just calling for freedom, justice, and equality. Don't let them stop that. What else are we going to do to fight for Palestine in 2024? How will we fight for Palestine in 2024? Another way we will fight for Palestine in 2024 is through education. We got to read, y'all. We're at a point now where the public discourse has shifted. People are smarter on this issue. People are wiser on this issue. People know lots of stuff on this issue, but there's still a long way to go. Because a lot of times the talking points and the lies are defeated through education and proper information. Do you know how many debates I had? I had a debate, and I want y'all to watch this debate that I have. It's on the page with a brother named Andrew, a nice guy, but a self-identified Zionist who was explaining to me that he said, Mark, you're ignoring the fact that the formation of Israel, the Nakba, happened because of the Holocaust. What were we supposed to do? What should we have done in the face of the Holocaust? I said, look, that's a compelling point, but it's just not accurate. The first Aliyah, the Zionist movement, the Zionist immigration began long before Hitler rose to power, much less before the actual Nazi Holocaust. So how do you explain 1882? But without that knowledge, that talking point prevails and people will continue to believe it. Again, watch the 5 myths about Israel-Palestine video that I posted. I'm going to ask everybody, if you want to do something for me, post that, watch, and then repost, share it. Don't cost you $1. Just watch it and share it. The 5 myths about Israel-Palestine video that I put up yesterday, because it helps dissect these things, but you can't dissect talking points and myths and lies unless you have the information. So please read the history on Israel and Palestine. Don't start with my book. My book is interesting. The book I wrote with Mitchell Plitnick, it's called Except for Palestine. I think it's a solid book, but it ain't the best by any stretch. Read Tom Segev's book on historic Palestine. Read Rashid Khalidi. Read Avi Shlaim. Read Ilan Pape. And when you read that work, you'll get a deeper and richer history. Read Ted Swedenborg. As you read these books, you'll come to develop nuance on the historical. I'm just talking about the historical part right now. Of course, read Shadid Sakali. Of course, read Noda Harakat. Of course, read all the Saad Achan. Read all the brilliant scholars, Palestinian scholars out there. But start with some history, so you have the context for how we got here. Ghada Abu Hakmeh. شكرا جزيلا. شكرا كثير يا أختي. I'm so grateful for all y'all who's showing love and support and who are joining the channel. Of course, read Chomsky. Of course, read Finkelstein. Of course, read these brilliant writers and scholars. Please do. I was shocked about Hakeem Jeffries, who was getting paid by APEC. What shocked you? Hakeem Jeffries, who I know and like very much, has, as a person, has been very consistent, in my estimation, on the wrong side of the Israel-Palestine question. But he's been on that same side forever. I don't know why you'd be shocked. I don't know why you'd be shocked. That's what I would say. I don't know why you'd be shocked. Again, Mutaz, thank you so much for saying my book. I appreciate that. Masoud Rahman, I'm currently reading a book called Except for Palestine. You should look into it. Here with the authors. Look, I'm gonna tell you something. Both of the authors are pretty smart. My brother, my dear brother, I would say, I'm talking about Mitchell Plitnick. My dear brother Mitchell, my co-author, is so brilliant, so thoughtful, so nuanced, and so generous. That book doesn't happen without both of our minds, both of our pens, both of our ideas. But I appreciate the love, and yeah, definitely check that book out. That's Tiffany. I met a white dude named Hakeem, and I'm still kind of shook by it. Yeah, that'll fuck you up. I don't quite get it either. You know, it's like Questlove and them had in common, and them had a band called A Black Girl Named Becky. It's the same kind of thing, I guess. A white girl named Hakeem, a white dude named Hakeem. Fair enough. More questions and comments before we keep going. But political education, books, reading, organizing, that's how we fight for Palestine. We can't do it secretly, we can't do it silently, and we can't do it with vibes. We need knowledge. We need knowledge. 770 said, my stance is Jewish is not ethnicity, but religion. That's, I hear you, but that's not true. I understand your position that we see Judaism as one of the three monotheistic faiths. Judaism is a religion, of course, but Judaism is more than religion. It is an ethnicity. It is a national identity. And I don't believe, and people say, well, it's made up. It wasn't always like that. All identities are made up. Palestinian is made up, right? American is made up. Pan-African is made up. But for what purpose are these ideas made up, right? And so people who are Jewish are not just, it's not just a religious identity, and that's not just an arbitrary political choice. I mean, there's a very real reason for that. I mean, think about Jews in Spain. Think about the those who were forced to convert. Think about the people who had who were called crypto Jews, right? People who were forced to convert to Catholicism or other forms of Christianity, and hide their Judaism. They were still persecuted, and even a generation later, when if it was turned, if it was pointed out that they were Jewish, or found out that they were Jewish, they were still persecuted. They were still killed. They were still subjected to pogroms. They were still subjected to genocide. And my point is, in a very real way, Judaism was not just about the religious practice. If it was just about religious practice, you could practice your way out of it, right? Just like you could practice your way into it. But it wasn't just about the doxa. It wasn't just about the belief. It wasn't just, as you say in Islam, the aqidah. Jewish was also a national identity. It was an ethnic identity. And if you think about it coming from the tribe of Judea or Judah, then you understand that it wasn't just religious practice. This was an ethnic or tribal identity. And yeah, and someone says, you know, you can disagree with me, and this person does. MK66 says Jewish is a national identity. No, it's completely false. No, it's not. I mean, if we're just talking about as a practical matter, it's a facts on the ground issue. Israel is a nation state. It is a state built around a national identity. What is the national identity of people in Israel? Jewish. That is the national identity. It's not a religious identity in Israel. It's a national. It's a national identity, among other things, as well as an ethnic identity. So I'm not denying our Jewish brothers and sisters their national, ethnic, or cultural identities. I don't think that's up for us to say. Judaism is not just a religion. Y'all can disagree. Um, and, um, and of course, we're on the same page when you say Jewish is not the same as Israeli. I agree. I'm not saying that Jewish and Israeli mean the same thing. But I guarantee you, even the most liberal, even the most left-leaning, even the most anti-Zionist Jewish person would still say that Jews in Brooklyn and Jews in Lima, Peru, and Jews uh, in Tel Aviv and Jews in Casablanca are all part of the same community. They're all part of the same diaspora of Jews, of Jewishness, of Jewish identity. Um, and that is a national identity. We don't get to define people's nationalist movements for them. Now we can talk about what it means to what to do with those national identities. Just because you have a nationalist movement doesn't mean you get to build a country on top of Palestinian people. Just because you have a nationalist movement doesn't mean that you get to engage in apartheid or genocide. I'm not saying that, and I'm not just referring to Jewish people right now. We can say that about any group. Nobody has a right to do that, but people do have a right to national self-determination. But your national self-determination can't come at the expense of someone else's. Uh, Ketiwe Zulu, thank you so much for your generous donation. Thank you so much for the love and the support. I appreciate it. Brianna Patton, my niece's name, Brianna. I love that name. Brianna, thank you so much for the generous donation. Thank you so much for the love. I appreciate y'all who are out here helping me understand and talk through this stuff. I appreciate y'all more than you know. As we NK99 is upset and leaving. I mean, this is again, we have to be able to have these dialogue. I'm not sure what I'm saying that you find so offensive. I'm not saying that Israel and Judaism are the same thing. I think I've been pretty consistent and clear saying that they are different. But to tell Jewish people that Jewish is only their religious practice is simply false. There are atheist Jews. I'm going to say that again. There are atheist Jews. There are agnostic Jews. There are secular Jews. These are parts of Jewish identity. In fact, the Zionist movement was not a religious identity. Was not a religious movement, excuse me. You think Theodore Herzl was a religious fanatic? You think that the early settlers were thinking about religious faith? No, it was a political project. So we have to understand that, and we have to embrace that. And we can. That's how Lydia Grace says, "I'm so confused." So what we'll do is we'll swing back on this in the new year. We'll have a whole conversation about this. I'll even get some people who identify as Jewish to come in, so maybe y'all can understand that. I think I've been pretty clear. But if you know, if we're among the people who say if I don't agree with you, I can't stay and leave, that's bizarre to me. But that's on y'all, man. I love y'all one way or the other. Rakin Sharuz, thank you so much for the generous donation and for this wonderful question. What are your thoughts on Don Lemon's journalistic capabilities? I believe that if Vivek, a Republican candidate, had the opportunity, he would have addressed the Palestinian issues. That's interesting. Don Lemon is my friend. Don Lemon is a colleague, and Don Lemon is I think a wonderful journalist with great skills, and I can't wait to see where Don lands. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to him in maybe 15, maybe no. We probably texted maybe 6 weeks ago. I can't remember, but Don is great, and I appreciate and love Don, and he's always somebody who I share laughs with, and I can't wait to see him land somewhere great. Masoud Rahman, thank you so much for your generous donation. Thank you so much for the love. I can't even tell you how grateful I am. I'm not sure what the conversion rate is on this unit that you're sending me. You could, but whatever it is, I'm grateful and I'm so happy. Back to Rakim real quick before I miss your other part of your question. Don Lemon and Vivek Ramaswamy had a very interesting back and forth on CNN. It ended up being about Black people and guns and rights and Constitution and all that stuff. And Don held him accountable and fact checked him, which is something that we don't do enough of on television. As a journalist, I can tell you part of the way that we need to be fighting for Palestine is to not let liars lie. I had a general on Al Jazeera come to me and say that he would not continue the conversation unless I admitted that he was right, that Israel doesn't control Gaza. And of course, it wasn't true. And we don't have to agree. I said, fine, let's agree. Let's agree to disagree. Let's move on to the next thing. He said, no, I will not continue. And he's trying to bully me into saying that Israel doesn't control Gaza, when of course Israel controls Gaza. Even at the Rafah border, there's coordinated security efforts. So it's not true by any stretch, but he tried to make it so. But we have to push back. Mehdi Hassan pushes back. Brianna Joy Gray pushes back. Sometimes the BBC pushes back. There are people who push back, but we have to normalize that. I love watching my sister Joy Ann Reid push back. She does it consistently, right? There are people who do it, but it got to be everybody, else this thing don't work. It has to be everybody, or this thing don't work. Ketiwe Zulu said, in South Africa, we used to go to work, but not really work to cripple the economy, and it used to drive the apartheid government nuts. They couldn't meet targets and make money. Again, non-violent resistance, another, right? Undermining, I won't use that word cripple because it's ableist, but challenging the economy, undermining the economy. This is part of what Palestinians did as early as 1936. The Arab revolts of 1936 to 1939 are often seen as a time of great violence. People think about the Nashashibis, they think about the night raids, they think about the various acts of terrorism committed by different groups, both the Yishuv and some of the notable families inside of Palestine. But it started with a 6-month general strike from April of 1936 until October of 1936. Arabs engaged in a general strike. The Palestinians engaged in a general strike. That's important. That's what needs to happen. Victory is more possible than y'all think. Uzaifa Shabazz said, any advice for graduate students who want to secure a future academic job in order to talk more about Palestine in the academy, but can't get there because of anti-Semitic accusations if they pursue such a path? That's an interesting and tough question. And that same question is asked or posed often by junior faculty. Like, how do I do this pre-tenure? Look, I would never tell somebody to wait until after tenure or after a job or after grad school to do the right thing. Can you imagine somebody saying, I'm not going to speak out against white supremacy, I'm not going to speak out against lynchings until I get tenure? I mean, we'd be like, but I do understand the need to be careful and strategic. And so I guess my advice is, if you want to participate in political actions, do it. I would probably allow my senior colleagues and comrades to protect me. So for example, as a grad student, yeah, you might show up to the action, you might show up to the protest, the sit-in, etc. But maybe, as graduate students, when it's time to have a petition, you have a section for untenured faculty and graduate students where you don't sign your name, but your voice is represented. We do that at Temple. We did that at Temple when I was there all the time. If we had a controversy with the dean and we were criticizing the dean, as a senior person, I signed it, but I didn't ask my junior faculty to sign it, or I had them sign it without a name, right? To say that their place is represented, but they're worried about repression. I said, Francis, thank you so much for your generous donation. Thank you so much for the love. Said, amen. Happy New Year, bro. And yes, we don't need folks defense-splaining to people native to this country. Yes. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all so much for those comments and for the love. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to y'all. Ali Ahmed said, agreed about Zionism being a nationalistic political movement ideology, but wouldn't you say it's rooted in Jewish supremacy, not necessarily by the book? I think that's the issue, right? Is that when the political Zionism, because there's different kinds of Zionism, there's cultural Zionism, there's all kinds of Zionisms, right? But political Zionism, which is the dominant and normative iteration of Zionism in the modern era, um, was rooted in the desire to create a Jewish state. And the creation of a Jewish state, and more specifically a Jewish ethno state, creates inherently hierarchy. If I have a Jewish state, but all my citizens aren't Jewish, then I effectively am not a state of all of my citizens, which creates supremacy. If there are rights and laws that I don't have access to because I am not Jewish, then yes, I am part of a supremacist state. It's just a fact. So the issue isn't nationalism as such. I mean, there's certainly room for deep skepticism of any kind of nationalism, Black nationalism, any kind of nationalism, right? Arab nationalism. But this specific nationalistic project was being done in a space where there was already a pre-existing Palestinian population whose rights were going to be trampled on, despite the fact that the Balfour Declaration and others said that it wouldn't be, although they were never named in it explicitly, which should have been a tell. Sunshine Nature, thank you so much for the love. Thank you so much for the shout out. You don't know how grateful I am. Soup Vic said happy, and thank you for the love and donation as well. Happy New Year, Mark. As a Palestinian American media junkie, I found the relative lack of coverage of Gaza on the Sunday morning news show pretty concerning from your perspective of media moving on. Yes. I'm going to read that again. I found the relative lack of coverage of Gaza on the Sunday morning news shows pretty concerning. From your perspective, is media moving on? The answer is yes. The media is moving on. That's my point. We cannot follow the media's lead. We have to make this a story, even when they get tired of talking about it. Just like we have to make Sudan a story. Just like we have to make Haiti a story. Just like we have to make reparations a story. Just like we have to make police violence a story. Just like we have to make all these things stories, because the media will tell you what to care about and they will tell you what not to care about. And it's never in line with our values or our principles. So we absolutely have to do something different, and we have to do something better. Thank y'all. Yo, I'm so grateful to y'all for this conversation. I'm so grateful to y'all for supporting the channel. This will absolutely 1000% be the final live of 2023 for me. So again, I'm going to ask y'all again, join the channel if you can. We appreciate it. If you want to give somebody, as my friends over at the Yemeni American Center did, if y'all want to give people memberships to the channel, I'd be grateful. If you want to join for yourself, I'd be grateful. If you want to send a super chat or super sticker, I'm grateful. If you just want to show love, I'm grateful. If you just want to hit the like button and let the YouTube algorithms know that y'all are rocking with what I'm doing here on the channel, I'm grateful. If you hit the subscribe button and just become a member, I'm grateful. If you hit that ring bell, the little bell notification, so people know when the next thing is coming up, I'm grateful. Everything that we're doing out here matters. It's all important, and I'm grateful for all of it. We're going to go into 2024 struggling for Palestine, organizing for Palestine, but putting it in a broader context of international struggle against oppression, against imperialism, against exploitation, against state violence, against racism. We're fighting all of it. Palestine is a signpost of a broader struggle. It's not the only struggle, but it is a signpost of our broader commitment to liberating all oppressed people. None of us are free until all of us are free. So it's all of us and none, and we ain't choosing none. So family, I love y'all. Have a great year. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the join button. Watch the video, 5 Myths About Israel and Palestine. After you're done this, I want y'all to watch that video. I want you to comment on that video, and I want you to share that video. That's a video that we want to go into 2024 being spread widely so that people can really appreciate what's at stake and how to dissect those arguments. I'm going to see y'all next year. I'm going to see y'all on the other side. God bless y'all. Have a safe night and a happy new year. Kul aam wa antum bikhair. B'alf khair.